So here we are at this point then. So we've got this idea of making it more accelerated, which is a huge blow to student debt in a very positive way. We've got the idea of enhancing clinical education. So you're thinking of some things that you want to do to make this different. And now knowing you've probably got to do it, at least in some part by yourself. My next question is, how's South College?
It's a great question, and sort of a fun story. I mean, we knocked on the doors of lots of sort of traditional institutions in the beginning, and didn't just have the door shut in our face. I mean, we were sort of laughed out of the room in a lot of cases. I mean, but you got to put it in context, right? I mean, and looking back, I mean, I'm very understanding of where some of that resistance came from. All programs in the country, or practically all of them, were 3 years. We had just converted, not that long prior to the DPT, where programs went from, call it, 18 months or 2 years in length to now 3 years in length. And so schools were just sort of cutting their teeth still in the DPT, and it's working, right? I mean, students are graduating, they're becoming licensed. And I think there was a sense of, well, there's nothing wrong with the way we're doing it now. Where's the problem? Our outcomes are good. And there's a natural status quo mentality in any environment, not just PT education. And so I think people just didn't see at all the need. And certainly there was a lot of resistance to the accelerated model, the fact that it was hybrid. And so, lo and behold, we stumble into South College. They had heard through sort of, mutual kind of contacts of what we were wanting to do, and that we were, being sort of, rejected, if you will, by kind of the traditional academics. And, to South College's credit, they're a very small, very nimble, very innovative institution. And to try anything new, that's really what it takes. It takes, someone who's willing to think differently, someone who's willing to, push boundaries, try new things. And, candidly, South College looked a lot like EIM in terms of its nimbleness and its willingness to think differently. And so that's really where, the partnership was formed. It's interesting. We sometimes, unfortunately so, I think, get criticized for being associated with this small, school at South College. I mean, wow, as their partner, the model really never would have probably had an opportunity to take off if it weren't for South College. And so we relish and appreciate our relationship. And Jeff, you and really the rest of the faculty who, at least call it 5 years ago, took some significant risk to be sort of associated with the program. It may sound strange, but like, it wasn't easy to recruit faculty then.
Yeah.
People sort of wanted to keep their distance,
Yeah.
but that's where it came from.
John, I get the idea of the accelerated. Like, my question to you is, who in the heck in the boardroom? So here you are trying to make this argument, going to condense this curriculum, but certainly we're going to be on site and everything else is going to be normal. Who in the heck raised their hand and said, by the way, we should do this hybrid model where the students don't even live there? How did that side of it come up?
Well, we had done hybrid post-professional education for the 10 years before, where our students didn't live sort of on the campus. They commuted to weekend courses for weekend intensives, right? So that's like a lab immersion now at South College. It's not a 2-day course. It's maybe a 2-week course. Our students had been online in synchronous and asynchronous education. So it really was sort of taking that model that was already so familiar to us, and then recognizing this can work in entry-level education as well. And why don't we think about a model where students can travel? We can folk part of the motivation was, there's this lecture lab format in typical sort of traditional programs where you sort of lecture for an hour, and then you change clothes and go to the lab for an hour, and then you go back. And it's this very kind of, I don't want to say scattered, but it's sort of the way we've always done it. And it's fairly inefficient, right? I mean, an hour lab in a traditional program may be actually 45 minutes of instruction, because you sort of got to, you get to the lab, and then you sort of, there's small talk, and then you have a lab, and then you break at, 10 minutes before the end of the hour, because you've got to get back to the, to class. Whereas in this immersive sort of model, this concept where when students are on site, they're engaged full time all day long. It looks and feels a lot like what the clinic is like. And it seems to me, just very in my very simple most mind, that that's sort of what we ought to be preparing students for, is the clinic. So it just seemed that the immersive model was a better way to prepare students for clinical practice. And I'll admit, I mean, we were concerned that maybe we had bitten too much off. It was like, maybe we should start with a hybrid 3-year program, and
Right.
then maybe 5 years later condense it. But Jeff, we just went for broke, and
Yeah.
it worked out.
Yeah. John, can you speak just a little bit, just share some memories? I mean, so it started 2015 was the first class, correct?
That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
South started 60, I think 65 students in 2015.
Okay. Yeah. I joined you all in 2016 and been on ever since.
Yeah.
But there was a little bit of action that happened before my boots were on the ground. Can you speak a bit? Because one of the other amazing facets of all of this is we didn't have a campus. Right. So I mean, so we got, 60 plus students. And if you think about the logistics of training PT students, when you're in site, you need wheelchairs and walkers and canes and tables, and we've got no space for this. I mean, can you just speak a bit about the process of that and trying to find a space and making it work in those first couple labs? I mean, were you all like, what are we doing?